intelectual para a gente poder dar início ao painel. I may only introduce our panel in Portuguese, Mohamed. You need, yeah? Se precisar, se tiver alguma interação.
Mas é que eu vou mudar o canal, é isso que eu vou falar. Por enquanto, você vai falar em inglês, tudo em inglês?
Eu vou só fazer a introdução do painel em português.
E o resto todo mundo em inglês?
Todo mundo em inglês.
Just in case if someone like a question in Portuguese.
Eu vou só tomar a liberdade de me apresentar e abrir o painel em nome do Sebrae Nacional, o sistema Sebrae. It's not working? Carol, acho que tem alguma dificuldade the panel. It's working the translation or not? You may? Yeah? It's working? Mohamed, se falar em português, você escuta a tradução? Yeah, it's working. Maybe the channel. Only be sure that we can start here. Sim? Em português. Yeah. Tá, parece que está funcionando. We go in English even though. Yeah, we all. Yeah, please. Yeah. Somente agradecer novamente a PEX, nossos parceiros do Pavilhão Brasil, Gustavo Cesário, Sebrae Nacional. Muitos até perguntam se o Sebrae Nacional atua no ramo da agricultura. A agricultura é uma perspectiva importante para o Sebrae, principalmente deles small farmers, né? Principalmente os pequenos. E um dos parceiros extremamente importantes para o Sebrae nesse momento é o ICA. Temos desenvolvido alguns projetos com o ICA. Então nós vamos tentar trazer uma discussão dos pequenos agricultores na perspectiva Brasil, perspectiva América Latina, Caribe, perspectiva global. And if I can say, Mohamed, we are very interested on the bioeconomy issue, and I know that you are very specialist on this issue. So I may, if you allow me, Francisco, I may start with this global perspective and see how Mohamed can introduce this issue, not only for small farmers, but also this bioeconomy, how we are seeing that on this route from Baku to Belém. You have this speech.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this event. Let me begin to say there are more than 500 million family farms globally. And these family farms play an important role in producing food of high nutritious value, but also food which is produced with sustainable practices. And I think family farms are facing a lot of challenges to produce based on the impacts of climate change, which has been discussed in this meeting. The impacts of, we need to build more resilience for family farmers. But also, farmers are also faced with the problems with the supply chain. The price for inputs have increased a lot. I still think that we need to look at a fair price in terms of how much we pay the farmers for what they're producing, understanding the problems they have and what the risk factors they have to undertake. And those are some of the issues that we address at ICA. ICA as an institution has a program on family farming and landscape development. We place an emphasis on the gender and inclusiveness, which is very important for us. But also we have a program on bioeconomy. Bioeconomy is seen in two vertenants. One, looking at bioeconomy from a more industrial point of view, where we know countries like Brazil have advanced in terms of producing ethanol from sugarcane and has been a champion in advancing in the knowledge from producing ethanol, but also from a smaller scale point of view, how can we have the small farmers inserted in the production of bioinputs? We have been organizing farmers to produce bioinputs, biopesticides and biofertilizers, And already we have a Latin American network which is aimed at, producing bioinputs. Now we know the challenges for bioinputs. We need more regulatory standards. A regulatory framework where RICA has been working with already countries like Brazil and Argentina have advanced on the regulatory frameworks. But also we need to look at standardization of the products, look at quality, stable supply. And those are the challenges that we have seen with the small farmers working with them. We have been working already with the cooperatives of how do we organize farmers in clusters and incubators, these small farmers to produce standard products. And there are good examples already in countries like Costa Rica where the coffee plantations are using the byproducts to produce biofertilizers from the coffee, and there are advances already in that. Similarly, in the small dairy farms, we already have been producing bioinputs, and I see there are good examples of the advances in that. Also, there are discussions now with palm, like acai, where Brazil is producing. How do you transform these commodities into more different value chains, multiple value chains, not only producing the fruits, but also producing the juices, transforming the byproducts, and also reducing the impacts on waste and reutilization. So I think, in general, Latin America has been advancing in terms of the bioeconomy. We have been emphasizing the tropics, where we have more potential for production of biomass because of the good conditions we have. Of course, we need to look at the conditions of water. We need to look at the conditions of fertilizers and the good use of the soils, and how can we transform those commodities being produced from the biomass into more multiple uses that we are producing. We have been working with the corn production. We have been working with many of the commodities we've been producing. More recently, there have been an interest on the production of rhizobium, which is Embrapa has been involved in and has generated good information on what are the impacts of nitrogen-fixing grasses or nitrogen-fixing plants, and how can you commercialize these and put this at a larger scale. So I will ask my colleagues to.
Thanks so much, Mohamed. Let me ask my colleague, Dr. Delis, to speak a little bit about the regional coordination of the Caribbean region on this perspective of small farmers.
Thank you very much, and thanks for welcoming us. Well, Mohamed referenced the global figure with small farms. And in the Caribbean, we're basically made up of small islands. And more than 80% of the farmers in the Caribbean farm less than 5 hectares. And out of that percentage, the vast majority farm on under 2 hectares. So one of the key challenges for farmers in the region is achieving economies of scale. One of the strategies we have attempted to pursue is to group in farmers into cooperatives, but that's a challenge in and of itself. Now, where the issue of climate change exacerbates the problem is that we are seeing increasing in intensity and frequency of these hydrometeorological risks. We're getting more intense hurricanes, we're getting extreme rainfall events, and we're getting extended droughts. One of the key issues surrounding is not only the loss of crop or harvest in any one given year of these farmers, but there is a non-cyclical nature of it, where they have lost the ability to predict. Now, on the basis that many of these farms are rain-fed systems, a farmer not being able to predict with certainty when the dry season will start, when the rainy season will start, affects his ability to plant. So sometimes he plants thinking there's an early onset of rains, and there's an extended drought, and he loses his seed. In many cases, farmers produce from heirloom. So when a farmer loses his seeds, he loses his entire investment for that year, low-resource farmers, so it creates a serious challenge for food security in the region. There's another key issue, is that the bulk of the population lives in the coastal areas. So one of the key components of any storm system is the issue of storm surges. We had the cases, for example, in Bahamas where we saw storm surges of 25 feet. Most of the infrastructure of these islands are along the coast. 75% of the population lives in these coastal beds. So storm surges also come in, causes another hazard, causing coastal flooding, affecting farms, and causing the salinization of the soils, which again impacts food security. There is no real, or there's a lack of sufficient risk transfer mechanism for these farmers. So there's a lack of insurance. So when a farmer loses his crop, he loses the entire investment without possibilities for replacement. So going forward, the building of resilience into the production systems in the region is a key objective of ICA, and we are attempting to help farmers to build their capacity in climate-smart agricultural technologies, to try to mitigate and adapt to some of these changing environments. But the Caribbean, being an area also of extremely high food imports, as it is, climate change poses an even greater hazard to the ability of these farmers to produce and meet these demands. Being small economies, small open economies, the loss of foreign exchange from importing food creates additional pressures on the government for other services like education, health. So it is critical that the farmers, that we are able to build the capacity of these farmers to meet at least a certain level of food security, to permit or to reduce the amount of capital flight that we are seeing in the countries, and we could address other issues that matter. So climate change really, more than the much larger countries who have the ability to move inland, in the small islands, there is no ability to move inland. You are still basically coastal. So it represents an existential threat to these islands. Either we are able to adapt or mitigate these things, or we disappear. And agriculture is a critical aspect of that challenge that we face. The ability of these islands to feed themselves remain of paramount importance for us.
Thank you, Dr. Delis. I may ask Dr. Francisco Malo to introduce ourselves a little bit, the context of Brazil. I know that the ICA, our colleague Schwank and others are doing a fantastic job with our ministries, with our colleagues at Brazil. So can you introduce a little bit the actions that's going on with the ICA and federal government and at Brazil?
Of course. First of all, thank you very much, Sebrae, for this kind invitation. I'm Francisco Melo. The three of us here actually belong to ICA, and we are seeing like different scale and actions on the ground promoted by our institution. Dr. Ibrahim, a more broader way, showing like how institution is moving forward in the aspects of bioeconomy. Dr. Delis, more focused on the Caribbean region. And I can speak actually, being also like a former national director and former undersecretary for food security to the Minister of Social Development as well. I think that based on everything that Dr. Ibrahim and Dr. Cordelis mentioned earlier, Latin America has more than 16 million smallholders or family farmers who are actually suffering, strengthening against like climate change. There's like urgent need to increment like finance to those farmers as a way also to improve the resilience of those adapted systems. Brazil, on one way, has been doing like a lot in previous years, I'd say previous decades. Brazil has like a very strong policy to support family farming, giving like finance or investing in public structures that also help them to improve the resilience of their food systems. I can give like a few examples on that. So I don't know if everyone's aware of it, but for example, the National Secretariat of Food Security has a very beautiful and very well successful experiences with the system program. In the past 20 years or so, they built more than like 1 million cisterns to harvest rainfall and give access to water to family farming. For on one hand, to give them to their own use for drink. That's like the base for food security. But on the other hand, also you need water to use for any kind of production, in like crop production, small crop production, or small animals as well. So this is a very beautiful policy. And a few years ago, a very important prize from the UNCCD is being like recognized as the top 5 resilient policies existing in the whole world. With that, I can tell that right now this government, they disponibilized around like 2 to 4 billion in our currency. So let's say almost like $800 million to keep incentivizing the adoption of those strategies as a way to increase the resilience of food system. I think both panelists mentioned already the importance of increasing like the cooperative systems. That's really real important to those small communities. We just had like a very interesting panel with people from social movements talking about the integration, the need to get attention, and definitely creating more cooperatives or assistant cooperatives would be a good solution to that. And actually, SEBRAE does do a great job by involving also those movements and family farmers into a more, I would say, business approach, which I really think it's a good model to follow on. I have like 2 or 3 points that I think that I would like to raise right now. One is to the technical assistance. That's key also to increase knowledge sharing and increase productivity, to develop the technology mentioned by Dr. Ibrahim, access to bio-inputs. This is very, very important in the context of the smallholders. Financing, I just mentioned. We have like in Brazil a program called PRONAF, which finances like with more than $20 billion every year the smallholders, and definitely open the doors for new opportunities. So I think I heard also the word about ethanol, bioethanol. So there's a current investigation right now in the Northeast region, which is a very arid area, where you can crop sugarcane. Centuries being cropped and producing ethanol as well. But right now they are investing also in agave, a different kind of crop that has also a great potential to be adapted to the region, scale up, and be a very important resource to the region as well. I mean, there's an opportunity to create a new industry that will definitely generate wealth and employment to all the family farming that are living there.
Before I go for another conversation, maybe the message at the end, Mohamed, I would like to emphasize some projects that we are doing right now at SEBRAE. We have a great partnership with the National Confederation of Agriculture. We have been working on this business capacitation in a program we call Juntos pelo Agro. That's mean together for this agribusiness, the small business. We also are working a lot, and we would have ICA more close to us, Francisco, on that issue. We have a program of regenerative agriculture at Minas Gerais. We are doing a lot of this issue. We are also having the bioeconomy focus innovative with Embrapa. Right now we have doing a lot of program for startups in Amazonia, and start to work also in Pantanal and the biome of Caatinga. And the last one that I would like to emphasize, and I may ask you how this is right now I relate about the biogas, the biomethano, how we'll be doing this with small farmers. We are trying to spread out this technology about the whole states of Brazil. So those issues of regenerative agriculture, biogas, capacitation, technical system. For the last message and to end this panel, can you, Mohamed, give the message at the end?
Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge the important work that you're doing in Brazil, which without doubt can be used and shared with the rest of the countries through South-South cooperation. And we know that with Embrapa and with SEBRAE working together, ICA is willing to work with you and to continue to look at the systemization of this knowledge and where can we apply and adopt this knowledge in different areas. Understanding that ICA is working in 24 countries, we are working in a very heterogeneous environment. In the Andean region, the Caribbean region, which my colleague, Mr. Cort Delis mentioned, in Central America, and of course in the Southern Cone, which has more advances in terms of what are the innovations and technologies, especially because of the investments we are making in research and innovation. Well, we do have an interest to continue working in bioeconomy, and with respect to a specific question about biogas, I think there's been good advances in Central America with the small farmers where integrating biogas in the very small dairy farms or very small livestock farms, we have been having good responses where biogas has been using for pasteurization of the milk or cooking and has been reducing the costs for electricity up to 15, up to 30% in some family households. So I think we see a benefit in this respect. We see a benefit in the return, but also we see an environmental response because many of the people in the rural communities depend on firewood, harvesting and degrading the forest because of the excessive harvesting of firewood. And this is one of the impacts that we've seen, negative impacts, but the implementation of biogas has been seen well. On the other hand, if you go to Asia, in Southeast Asia, in countries like Vietnam and other countries, we think biogas has been mainstreamed more within these small farming communities. And there are good examples there where they've been integrating these biogas production in these areas.
Thank you. Can you talk about the Caribbean region? What are those aspects? Bioeconomy, biogas, regenerative agriculture?
Yes. Son, right? Yeah, so these are some of the technologies, particularly biogas, that we have been trying to incorporate into some of the production systems. With biogas, one of the reasons why we have been trying to promote it, especially many of the piggeries in the Caribbean are actually located along water channels and rivers. And the effluent from these piggeries are going directly into the water sources. So it creates a problem with contamination of water sources. So one of the things that we have been introducing, these low-cost biogas initiatives to farmers, as Mohammed said, whether it is for the heating of the pig pens or for the cooking of the swill or the food for the pigs, we have been trying to introduce it. What it does is to try to reduce the amount of effluent that actually goes into the river sources and causing contamination and environmental problems. And also, a lot of that material which is collected, putting it into composting for bio inputs for these farms. So you're actually maximizing the profitability from the farms. What was waste is now being converted into either energy reduction or compost that could be used in crop production. So these are some of the technologies that are accessible to small farmers, and we have been trying to build that capacity. I want to say also, we at ICA, one of the things that ICA has been doing, particularly in the Caribbean, is working as an intermediary between countries which are more advanced like Brazil and the Caribbean. And within the framework of our South-South cooperation model, we have been serving as that intermediary between, for example, Embrapa and the region in areas, particularly things like clean seed production, utilizing the research from Embrapa, and we have Embrapa working in Suriname with upland rice varieties, the issue of varieties of bean, of soya, of corn for some of the countries in the region. So these technologies are benefiting. Also very important, the use of small, appropriate tools and equipment that are manufactured in Brazil and not available for the small farmers in the region. ICA has been working to establish these linkages so that we could be supplied in the region, small farmers could be supplied from these technologies that exist in Brazil. So part of the building that resilience and capacity to mitigate some of the challenges that we are seeing is also to learn from the more advanced countries like Argentina and Brazil. And that's one of the key roles we are performing in trying to bring that South-South cooperation model to the benefit of both the southern region, Brazil and these countries, and to the Caribbean region.
Thank you so much, Dr. Delis. Francisco, can you have a last message for us how we can do this from Baku to Belém on the issue of agriculture?
For sure. Thank you very much. I'll turn into Portuguese, being like in the Brazilian pavilion and being Brazilian. So I encourage you to keep listening in a different pace and language. Acho que para complementar tudo que foi dito pelo diretor Muhammad, também pelo nosso representante da região do Caribe, Kurt Delis, e voltando ao tema da agricultura regenerativa, que é chave, sim ou sim, para ajudar a se chegar aos objetivos que nós temos com relação ao clima, posicionar a agricultura, os agricultores dentro desse ambiente de discussão e o nosso setor de uma forma geral como parte da solução climática. Sem dúvida, nós temos que incrementar a porcentagem de adoção dessas práticas que compõem o que a gente chama de agricultura regenerativa. Se a gente fosse colocar de uma forma muito geral, quando a gente pensa talvez na agricultura de escala, é mais fácil compreender quais são esses componentes. Aí eu posso falar também na perspectiva de pesquisador da parte de ciência do solo, que também é o Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim, que quais são aquelas práticas, por exemplo, que nos ajudam a incrementar, por exemplo, o estoque de carbono dos solos, que são essenciais para mitigar os efeitos do gás do efeito estufa. Uma delas é você deixar a cobertura do solo. Então, quando você pensa numa área grande de extensão territorial, você converter aquele sistema que antigamente se usava de plantio muito intenso, com aração, gradagem do solo, convertê-lo em em um sistema de cultivo que o Brasil se produz faz muitos anos, que é cultivo sobre plantio direto na palha. Você mantém aquela proteção e aquilo, com o passar do tempo, vai sendo decomposto, vai passando por ação dos micro-organismos do solo e vai sendo incorporado no solo. Quando você olha na agricultura de grande escala, é mais fácil visualizar. Quando você transforma isso uma agricultura de menor escala, a gente tem que entender o contexto também daquele agricultor. Na minha primeira intervenção, eu mencionei, por exemplo, a questão mais da segurança alimentar. Eu acho que no Brasil existe uma grande porcentagem dos pequenos produtores que tem esse aspecto de produzir para o autoconsumo. Isso acontece também no Chile, isso acontece também, obviamente, em quase toda a América Latina. Mas eu posso dar um exemplo de ações que incorporam essas boas práticas também em áreas produtivas e com produtos da agricultura de altíssima qualidade, como, por exemplo, o que acontece na Costa Rica. Costa Rica é onde eu resido, onde reside também o Muhammad Ibrahim. Costa Rica é um país pequena extensão territorial comparado com o Brasil, tem uma grande quantidade de pequenos agricultores, a área média de um pequeno agricultor lá, de agricultura familiar, tem 1 a 2 hectares, e eles produzem um café de altíssima qualidade consorciado, por exemplo, com banana ou com outros produtos, e que acabam, de certa forma, criando condições favoráveis no ambiente de regeneração de solo, etc., o uso de bioinsumos, como comentou o Kurt Delis, e um produto espetacular, hoje que é o produto talvez não o número 1, mas o número 2 ou 3 de exportação do país. Para quem não sabe, o produto de exportação número 1 da Costa Rica é abacaxi, é uma delícia. Acho que talvez, só para concluir, quando a gente coloca todos esses aspectos dentro de um framework ou dentro de uma linha de política pública, como tem o nosso país, acho que você cria realmente essas condições para dar escala a essa transformação. Então, outra vez, tendo uma política clara que alinhe os produtos da agricultura, os produtos da produção familiar, da bioeconomia, a essas condições de um apoio ao país chegar a uma meta, por exemplo, ou seja, na produção de alimentos, ou melhorar a segurança alimentar, ou também conseguir trabalhar na agenda climática. Eu acho que é um modelo que a gente sim pode aproveitar, replicar dentro desse desenho de cooperação sul-sul, que é tão importante para a nossa região.
Eu vou terminar no português, Francisco, tomar liberdade do português, para dizer, Mohamed, Dr. Delis, que junto com o ICA, Recentemente nós desenvolvemos um projeto para o IC Financiamento e que a gente ainda não recebeu a resposta do IC, mas eu acho que já foi muito importante o trabalho conjunto do ICA em 4 vetores. O projeto é voltado para mitigação de desmatamento, sobretudo a questão do soja, sobretudo o avanço para a caatinga brasileira. Então a gente tem discutido muito o papel dos pequenos agricultores, sobretudo gerar valor para que a soja tenha concorrência na sociobio, na bioeconomia. É muito difícil, né, a gente conseguir segurar o cinturão da soja por meio da bioeconomia da sociobio. Um outro vetor muito importante que você já comentou, Mohamed, que é com a Embrapa na parte de inovação, startup. Então, hoje nós temos um programa importante direcionado para startups inovarem no campo da produtividade da agricultura. Então, esse é o outro eixo. Nós estamos lançando aqui, Mohamed, um roadmap também do território carbono neutro. É uma perspectiva do desenvolvimento municipal, a resiliência climática, sobretudo nos municípios pequenos, onde a agricultura é o principal impacto. E, por fim, toda essa questão do financiamento, né, de como a gente, que é o grande debate dessa COP29, como é que a gente faz realmente esse direcionamento, essa questão do mercado de carbono voltado. Então, a gente tem ainda alguns minutos. Eu deixaria aberto para, se vocês, if you know, Mohamed, if you know, Dr. Give some more, add some more, or even some of our participants can wanna add something. If not, we go to conclude that.
No, I just want to say that, like Francisco mentioned, Costa Rica is a country that wants to become a decarbonized country by 2050. Already, Costa Rica has exported the first batch of coffee, which is deforestation free. It has what they call the NAMA's livestock. It has the NAMA's coffee, the NAMA's banana, which is a national appropriate mitigation action. And all these actions are aligned with the with carbon neutrality. So I think that there's a good learning experiences, both from Brazil and from Costa Rica and other countries, where we can share experiences on what are the enabling environments and policies that are working, and how we can use that to implement policies to reach the NDC's goal, the goal for mitigation and adaptation to climate change, but also understanding. I think we need to put more emphasis on adaptation to climate change. We are discussing an issue about small farmers, and I think small farmers are the ones who are facing a lot of risk. You need to de-risk the climate finance and try to look at how we can have the synergies between adaptation and mitigation to climate change. And there is need for more emphasis on adaptation to climate change from my point of view.
I believe that, Francisco, you want to add something?
Thank you very much. Acho que aproveitando aqui, se você fizer uma síntese de tudo que a gente falou, colocamos basicamente todas aquelas palavras-chave que são realmente importantes. Não é financiamento, é desenvolvimento e implementação de tecnologia, transferência de tecnologia, enfim, programa de capacitação. Mas tem uma palavra que também tem que ser mencionada aqui, que é base em ciência. Acho que a base científica ela é fundamental também para a gente conseguir alinhar todos esses desafios a uma agenda climática global. Acho que nesse aspecto só eu queria comentar muito brevemente um trabalho que também desde o ICA a gente vem implementando através do Programa de Ação Climática, que é ajudar a melhorar as referências que existem para algumas dessas práticas de agricultura regenerativa. Obviamente, quem desenvolve isso não somos nós somos diferentes institutos de pesquisa, de educação, tem referências e referentes em todo o mundo. E alguns deles, obviamente, têm avançado muito nessa questão do entendimento do conhecimento para a agricultura tropical. Então, posso mencionar diretamente que é um centro chamado Sea Carbon, que é o Centro de Estudos de Carbono em Agricultura Tropical, que fica na Universidade de São Paulo. Foi um dos últimos centros criados, e recentemente criado com o apoio da FAPESP. O ICA é parte, de forma muito orgulhosa desse centro, parte do board científico, e outros colegas de outras, diria, mais de 10 instituições de prestígio também são parte desse centro. E acho que talvez nem uma semana atrás, nos reunimos aqui na COP com o ministro Paulo Teixeira, do MDA, e a gente começou a discutir com ele a criação de uma nova visão, uma metodologia que ajude a identificar também esses pontos, esses gargalos da agricultura familiar. Faz uma estimativa em larga escala, ou em agricultura de ampla escala, é uma coisa. Quando você vai trabalhar com pequena agricultura, é diferente. Então, são pontos que têm que ser discutidos dentro dessa agenda, porque existe uma proposta dentro do centro, que é fazer toda a linha de base de todos os usos do solo, de todas as regiões, até 1 metro de profundidade. Né? Para quem não é da área de ciência do solo, hoje a gente teve uma discussão aqui mais cedo sobre o próximo relatório do IPCC, que vai ser lançado no ano de 2027. Ele é a base com qual os países utilizam, e os pesquisadores, através dos países, calculam as emissões e remoções. Então, quando a gente vê aquele relatório do IPCC que sai, que coloca as projeções, ela é feita a partir de cálculos feitos por cada um dos seus países, das suas redes de pesquisadores. Então, você buscar melhores dados que ajudam a refletir a realidade, ou com melhor precisão, qual é aquela condição específica do país, é de muita valia. Então, acho que a ideia que vem desse centro ela é notável, porque eles querem fazer essa linha de base de todo o Brasil. Isso posiciona muito bem esse setor, talvez na agenda, não colocaria nem na agenda climática global, mas na agenda de segurança alimentar global, porque você vai conseguir mostrar que a produção de alimentos ela é feita de uma forma, diria, cuidadosa, ou que pelo menos tem dentro de uma visão esse caminho de tentar chegar ao net zero, ao carbono zero, como mencionou o Mohamed Ibrahim, que é uma das metas da Costa Rica, mas do qual o Brasil também é signatário por ano 2050. Então, acho que é uma outra ação que a gente vem desenvolvendo e que acho que tem um grande potencial de ajudar outros países.
Francisco, dia 12 de dezembro a gente já recebe Schwank, o Christian, at Sebrae, exatamente para tentar fortalecer esse caminho de Baku a Belém nessa parceria e intensificar ainda mais. I agree totally with you. We have really to push ourselves in this climate adaptation and how the risk of the farmers. So thank you so much, Mohamed. Thank you, Dr. Delis. Thank you, Francisco. Agradecer ao Ica, Schwank, ao Christian, nossos parceiros, e obviamente mais uma vez aos colegas do Pavilhão Brasil que compartilharam conosco aí essa tarde. Obrigado mais uma vez.
Obrigado a vocês.